So then for this number 4, how can a photograph or time-based artwork be a psychological document if your artists involve an interpretation where if you think that their work is more of a psychological document, then you need to be clear on your answer to that. You need to be very clear on how does the artist's intention and input and vision and aesthetic actually make it a psychological document. And it's so just like we talked about with Tom Chambers' work, you know, being like a still from a fairy tale or a dream, how does that make it a psychological document? An archetypal element in the work. And then does the ubiquity of photographs and video on social media sites devalue art, photography or video? So what's the difference between the photographs and video that you see, say, on Facebook that your friends post? There's millions of them and billions of gigabytes of those things floating out there in the ether and stored in a big shed in America somewhere, giant shed. You know, does that change or devalue artwork? What's the difference between the artwork, video or photograph, and the snapshot?
This sounds like a stupid question, but can we say like I and we? I mean like...
No, you're writing this as an expository, so you're actually talking in the third person. It's an authoritative essay. It's like a thesis.
I'm just confused on how to like set up the paragraphs. Like, should we have 4 main body paragraphs?
4 would work. 3 would probably work.
And like, so 2 of them, one of them should be like for each artist. Do you suggest?
You can do it like that, but it doesn't have to be.
Okay.
All right. So your introduction, you're addressing that question. That question is what it's about, not separately about you 2 artists, if that makes sense. But you can talk about each artist separately if you wish to, and if you find that easier as a structure. So your first introduction is going to be the question that you're looking at, or your view on your thesis to answer the question, and you're going to make that statement. You're going to then introduce the 2 artists that you're going to be looking at, and you're going to state where their work fits into those 3 possibilities: truth, fiction, psychological document, or a mixture of both. And, you know, one artist might be very much the fiction, and the other might be far more the psychological document, say. So you could set up those. Then you're going to probably have 1 paragraph where you simply address the statement that you've made and give some historical context to that statement. So you're kind of setting up what you're going to be talking about, but elaborating on it, maybe with some quotes about general history of photography or quotes from particular artists. And then you can do a paragraph on one artist using the evidence of their work to explore your thesis, and then a paragraph on your second artist, but always rounding it back to answer the question. But if you choose, you can write about both artists in each of those 2 paragraphs, the second paragraph in the body and the third paragraph in the body. Can you think of how you might do that? Yeah, if you were looking at it through 2 different contexts, or if you were looking at it through perhaps one where you're simply looking at that definition of what art, photography or video is, and then you're talking about each artist as a different lens on that, if you like. So it might be Bill Viola, who works with video, and Tom Chambers, who works with straight digital photography, and you could actually talk about their work, but perhaps in that historical context first, both artists. So what you're actually talking about is the historical context. to address that question. But then your third paragraph might then talk about both artists again, but drawing out from a particular work or body of work from each artist, where you're talking about why those artworks, because of their intention, answer or give evidence for your thesis. Do you know what I mean? Am I confusing you? So whatever you find easiest to do that. And I think, yes, the easiest way to tackle it is probably your introduction, just where you're introducing the basic things you're going to be talking about, adding in the section on the historical context and how, you know, technologies have been tools for art making, etc., your answers to these questions in effect, but rolled into, you know, an explanation of your thesis, and then a paragraph on one artist, a paragraph on a second artist, where you'll be talking about individual works within each of those two paragraphs as evidence of what you're saying, and then your conclusion.
And do we have the photos of their works, or do you want us to?
Yep, you put photos, but make them small versions. Just really shrink them down. You know how to do that in Photoshop. Before you put them into the body. Any other questions? So conclusion, of course, is just you don't simply restate what's in your introduction. I don't want to read you just completely copying, and I've seen that too many times. You know, you've learned something in the writing of that essay. You've set out in your introduction what you're going to be saying. You've learned something as you've unpacked that information, and you have some statements then that you want to make as a result of learning something through the essay that you want to share with your reader. So that's what your conclusion is. It's about restating, but with reference to what you've actually said through the essay. Not just vague statements that the introduction might actually. Do you see, Anna?
Got that?
Pardon?
Got that?
Yeah. Okay. So we've got 5 minutes. We'll have another lesson on this tomorrow. But for now, can you write, type, whatever, an introductory sentence, then unpack or write the artist that you're going to be talking about, how their work briefly is going to be used as evidence to support your statement. So just really fast, with all the things in mind that we've talked about so far.